segment, we'll break down why Golden State might aim for Giannis, what obstacles they face, how they could build a trade plan, and what it all means for the franchise's future. Part 1. Why Giannis makes sense for Golden State. From a pure basketball perspective, acquiring Giannis would instantly elevate the Warriors to a title-contending level, not just in the West but across the entire league. Giannis brings elite two-way impact, rim protection, elite rebounding, dominant drives, and as he's matured, better playmaking. Aligning him with Curry's shooting and playmaking and Draymond's defensive IQ could create a multidimensional attack that few teams can match. Beyond on-court fit, the franchise's strategic motivations also align. The Warriors' front office recognizes that their current championship window needs reinforcing, since relying only on the aging core may reduce margin for error. Moreover, acquiring Giannis would excite the fan base, restore narrative energy, and signal that Golden State remains willing to swing for generational talent. Also, Giannis shares some existing ties, for example, the same agency representation with Curry, both via Octagon, which could ease some off-court negotiations. Yardbarker +2. Part 2. Major obstacles and why the deal is so hard. However, the path to Giannis is littered with challenges. Contract/cap issues. Giannis carries a massive salary. He is under contract through 2026 to 27, with a player option for 2027 to 28. The Warriors would need to clear large cap space, which likely means sacrificing valuable role players or parts of their core. Yardbarker +1. Asset cost trade package. Analysts estimate the cost to acquire Giannis would include multiple unprotected first-round picks and high-end young talent. For example, one trade scenario has Warriors sending Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and at least one unprotected first round. Golden State's available draft assets are limited compared to other contenders. They have to balance keeping picks and prospects versus using them for a blockbuster. Heavy sports +2. Timing and internal priorities. Some sources indicate the Warriors are not at the front of the line for Giannis right now. They reportedly are focused more on role players and internal development rather than a blockbuster acquisition this offseason. Furthermore, Golden State must consider the long term. Curry will age, Green's role will decline, so adding Giannis may shift the timeline of franchise structure and chemistry. Bringing in a superstar of Giannis's magnitude changes team dynamics. Integrating him into the scheme, altering roles of existing stars, managing egos and expectations, all require delicate handling. Part 3. What a realistic plan could look like. Given the obstacles, how might Golden State craft a serious but realistic plan? Asset preservation and flexibility. One key sign that Golden State is preparing is their emphasis on maintaining flexibility for future star acquisitions rather than locking in long-term contracts for role players. For example, they are reportedly avoiding long commitments to Jonathan Kuminga so that they remain open for a possible Giannis-type market. Golden State of Mind +2. Draft pick strategy. Analysts suggest that the Warriors could trade picks such as 2026, 2028 and maybe 2030/2031 first-rounders, or pick swaps, to build a package. As Heavy Sports outlines, Warriors cannot offer their 2025, 2027, 2029 and 2031 since they are not allowed to trade first-rounders in back-to-back drafts, Ted Stepien rule. What they could do is trade the other half of their 2030 pick. Heavy Sports. Player inclusion strategy. A realistic scenario might see the Warriors trade one of their stars, for example Draymond Green, plus young assets, Podziemski, Kuminga, and picks in exchange for Giannis. One mock trade had Warriors getting Giannis, Lakers receiving Draymond Green and Daniel Gafford, Mavericks getting other assets, and Bucks getting a haul. SI+1. Timing alignment. The Warriors may be positioning themselves to pounce on the Giannis market in a season or two rather than immediately. Their reasoning: they maintain flexibility, don't overcommit now, and monitor workload of their core. This gives them a window when Giannis might more favorably consider Golden State, or when Milwaukee is more willing to deal him. Essentially Sports +1. Internal decision points. The Warriors have to decide whether to continue with the current core, or pivot to a new era centered around Giannis and Curry, or even shift beyond Curry. They will need to assess how long Curry can be at elite levels, and whether they want to build around Giannis' prime. Part 4. Potential risks and trade-offs. Even if the trade is executed, the Warriors will face significant risks. Depth and role player loss. To acquire Giannis, they trade young players and picks that might otherwise be future contributors. This could thin the roster. Team chemistry shifts. A major addition can disrupt locker room balance. Curry's role, Green's role, and the team's culture may each need adjustment. Injury and age risk. Curry and Green are aging, and investing so much around Giannis assumes the current veterans remain healthy and effective. Return on investment uncertainty. While Giannis is elite, winning a championship is never guaranteed, especially in the Western Conference. If the investment fails, the asset cost is high. Future flexibility constraint. For the Warriors themselves, it would mean moving into an ultra-competitive window where every season is a must-win. They'd likely surround Giannis with shooters and role players, which they already have strength in. It would also mark a transition phase, potentially extending competitive relevance past Curry's prime. For the league, the ripple effects would be vast. Teams like the Milwaukee Bucks would then enter rebuild mode, young men like Podziemski and Kuminga could become central pieces elsewhere, and the entire trade market would shift. However, if the Warriors decide not to pursue Giannis aggressively, it may signal their commitment to internal development and maintaining their current core, showing that some dreams remain just that. Conclusion. In summary, the Warriors landing Giannis Antetokounmpo remains a compelling possibility, one that would immediately elevate the franchise, excite fans, and reshape the NBA hierarchy. But it is far from a sure thing. Contract complexities, asset costs, timing considerations, and internal dynamics all play major roles. Golden State appears to be aligning their future flexibility, preserving assets, and positioning themselves, but they are also realistic about the challenge. For Warriors fans and NBA observers alike, keep an eye on the young assets, Kuminga, Podziemski, draft pick movements, and Milwaukee's stance on Giannis. Those breadcrumbs may lead to whether this dream becomes reality. The night in Portland felt heavier than usual. It was only the third game of the season, yet something about the energy inside the Moda Center carried the weight of a statement. The Golden State Warriors, fresh off two impressive victories against the Lakers and Nuggets, walked into the Blazers' home court expecting another triumph. But basketball, as always, has a way of humbling even the greatest. The final scoreline, 139-119, told a story not of defeat alone, but of awakening. Stephen Curry, as always, rose to the moment. Coming off a 42-point masterpiece less than 24 hours earlier, he still managed to drop 35 points with 7 threes, dancing through defenders and silencing doubters who wondered if fatigue might slow him down. Every shot he made echoed the rhythm of confidence built over a decade of brilliance. Yet, even Curry's magic couldn't rewrite the night's destiny. The Blazers came hungry, desperate to end a 10-game losing streak against Golden State. Led by Denny Avdija's career-high 26 points, Portland attacked with aggression, finding open looks, driving the lanes, and controlling tempo. Their offense felt relentless, their spirit unbroken. By halftime, the lead had ballooned to double digits, and even as the Warriors fought back, every response was met by another Portland punch. Draymond Green tried to ignite the flame early. His voice, his hustle, and his leadership were on full display, starting the game by scoring or assisting on the first 4 Warrior buckets. But as the night deepened, fatigue showed. The defense that once terrified opponents cracked under Portland's pace. The rotations lagged. Communication slipped. And by the fourth quarter, the Blazers had built a wall no comeback could break. Jonathan Kuminga was one of the few bright spots. His 2 explosive dunks in the first half reminded everyone why the franchise still believes in his ceiling. With only 7 shot attempts, he scored 16 points, adding rebounds and energy every time he touched the floor. His chemistry with the rookie Will Richard flashed promise, a glimpse into the Warriors' future beyond their aging core. Speaking of that youth, Quinton Post made his first start of the season. replacing veteran Al Horford, who sat out the back-to-back. Post showed confidence, calm footwork, solid screens, and a soft touch around the rim. It was his chance to prove that even in a roster full of champions, there's room for fresh legs and new ambition. And then came Moses Moody, finally making his season debut after missing the first 2 games due to a calf injury. Moody's presence was quiet but impactful. 7 points, 6 trips to the free throw line, and 21 minutes of solid defense. For a team looking for bench consistency, that's gold. Yet still, the truth lingered: Golden State had been outplayed. Out-hustled. Out-rebounded. Outshot. As the final buzzer sounded, the Blazers celebrated as if they had won a playoff game. In a way. The next challenge, back home in the Bay. Now, the Warriors return to Chase Center, where they'll host 2 California rivals back-to-back, the Memphis Grizzlies on Monday, and the Los Angeles Clippers on Tuesday. The Grizzlies bring grit. They're young, physical, and hungry. Every matchup between these two has become personal, a rivalry born from playoff battles and trash talk. For Golden State, that's an emotional reset, a chance to rediscover rhythm, defensive intensity, and confidence. Then comes the Clippers, perhaps the toughest early season test. 2 California teams, both packed with veterans, both chasing one last championship window. The Clippers roster is a museum of experience: Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Chris Paul, Bradley Beal. Each a name that once defined an era, now sharing the same court under one goal: redemption. For Golden State, the narrative feels familiar. They too are led by legends: Curry, Green, Thompson, icons whose chemistry has carried the franchise through dynasties and droughts alike. But this time, they face the mirror version of themselves, a team just as seasoned, just as battle-tested, and just as desperate to prove they're not done. The key matchup? Jimmy Butler 3 versus Kawhi Leonard. 2 wings carved from the same cloth, relentless, fearless, and utterly obsessed with winning. Butler, now in his first full season with Golden State, has brought leadership, defense, and a veteran's edge. Kawhi, quiet as ever, remains the silent killer. Their duel promises to be chess, not checkers, strategic, patient, and brutal. Momentum, legacy, and the long season ahead. Through the first week, Golden State's identity feels clear. When they play fast, share the ball, and trust their depth, they're deadly. But when fatigue sets in and defensive focus fades, even a rebuilding team like Portland can expose them. The integration of new faces, Al Horford, D'Anthony Melton, Will Richard, Quinton Post, will take time. The chemistry isn't built overnight. But the foundation remains the same: the brilliance of Curry, the mind of Draymond, and the energy of Kuminga. The Warriors' story this season isn't just about chasing wins. It's about evolution. About proving that greatness can adapt, that experience can coexist with